Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Propaganda Review with me, your host, Imperial Dane, here doing some game reviewing, as occasionally people just pop in and ask what's my opinion on this game or this game, and so I think, let's do videos with that too, see if it doesn't get me some views and some, well, maybe appreciative people who like my reviews. So, Sid Meier's Civilization Beyond Earth. Yes, indeed, the recent released game in the Sid Meier's Civilization series. Available on Steam. Ta-da! And, I mean, it's overall, if I was to say, it's fun. It's fun, but it's got issues. It's got fun, but it's also got issues. It's overall, well, civilization, if you will. And that's, Sid Meier's Civilization really sort of encapsulates it in many ways. I mean, sure, it's beyond Earth, but it's still very much civilization. It's not, for example, Alpha Centauri 2 or something entirely different. I mean, there's a lot of new things, for example, now, when you set up here. I mean, you get the standard pace, difficulty, map size, all that. And then you sort of get here, and, things slowly get differently. You don't, have nations. You've got sponsors with all sorts of bonuses, although already quickly some of them sort of begin to look, a bit iffy. 10% strength in melee combat sounds great, except the reality is in most cases it doesn't really do much, plus it also ignores, for some groups, a large part of their units, which all means it's not actually a very effective bonus compared to, say, being able to produce wonders faster, workers do stuff faster as well, or gain free technology. I mean, that's powerful. Trade routes is good, orbital units staying in orbit better as well. I mean, there are a lot of those things. And overall here, sort of slight issues begin appearing. Already here, things aren't quite adding up. But, you choose a sponsor. Did I actually choose one? No, I didn't. Well, let's just take this one. Then you choose colonists. Again, you choose a bonus. Again, where previously it was all pre-packaged with a bit of history. There's a bit of that, but overall, I mean, it's a lot more, well, what do I want to do? I mean, some of it sounds neat, of course, but in the end, some of them just sort of seem neat overall. Getting more production, at least for me, seems more, well, good than, for example, a bit of energy. Your culture right off the bat, being able to build the things faster, for example, seems immediately more effective off the bat, but of course, that's merely my viewpoint. I mean, again, it's a neat thing, and here, though, I really feel like it's just sort of, well, a lot of this is neat, but overall, being able to choose a better starting position seems like the most optimal one over everything else. Same with choose cargo. Sure, soldiers initially neat, but if you actually play the game, as I have, you generally find they don't actually get you much. The other things are good, but overall I always end up with a worker unit because, well, again, you can quickly sort of get some things fixed, which quickly boosts up production, all the other things around your base, or your initial city, as opposed to be a more technical word. So again, again, there's sort of an issue here. Maybe some builds sort of immediately come off, and again, some of the bonuses initially just, aren't really worth it when you think about it. You also get sort of different worlds here. That's very neat. Looks nice, all that. Nothing, wrong. It starts. There we go. 5. I mean, again, the startup, choose leaders, I think. But overall, that was it. I mean, now you have units, civilization-specific buildings, and the bonus themselves also tend to then be a lot more generic. Which, of course, pretty sure I didn't turn this on off. Actually, don't know what's going on there. But you get that, for example. And then, of course, you get this, for example. Oh, hey, I can sort of build my city right off the bat. I mean, you don't have to sort of shift around the settlers. So, I mean, there's that as well. You sort of look around, oh dear, and we got the miasma. That's a little fun new thing, though. It sort of tends to be more of a bother than anything, because it just means there's sort of things you can't touch. And it's sort of an initial limiter. Will some, like the new aliens, benefit from it? You can sort of choose an affinity, also benefit from it. And of course, affinities is one of those new aspects once more added to the game. Rather than, for example, you choose, for example, your government form. Now it's an affinity, which then also sort of grants you your more unique units. So in that regard, it's sort of a mixture of the civilization bonuses and the government types. Because the other sort of nations that will appear also treated more as the government types you would have chosen back then. Oh, you're a dictator. Oh, you're into democracy. You dirty little bastard. So on like that. Now it's just, purity. Now it's harmony. And supremacy and so on. So in that regard, you get your units from that through teching up. And of course, that's also probably one of the sort of things get more unique here with the game. It's no longer sort of much more linear path now. It's, well, a large web, as they like to call it, with sub-points. A lot of neat names here. You can sort of quickly see what you get. Bonuses, some of them actually give you affinity for researching. And it's primarily through these you sort of get affinity. There's also quests and things you sort of find out on the field. But this is sort of, I suppose, one of the larger departures from the Civilisation series. I mean, again, there's all sort of directions you can go for. You can, of course, queue up just like you always did. There's sub-points there. For example, you might have to sort of initially research ecology, then you can research geophysics, and then alien biology. Although, I mean, if you want to cut the sort of top one, you can do the others in whatever way you actually like. Also, the initial units, for example, right here next to you, you got the Rangers, combat rovers, missile rovers, and so on. Basically, guys that basically resemble archers, cavalry, tanks, and artillery, more or less. Of course, you get your more unique units, which then require affinity bonuses. Sort of neat, all that. And for example, Purity, for example, having a lot of range units, for example, would then be the one that Brazil's bonus would actually affect the least. A little fun detail. Then again, they sort of actually give some of the more interesting bonuses. Aliens on attack, you get sort of special attacks overall, even special victory ways of winning the game. Then you of course have the whole quest system, which has also been nicely bolted on, which actually has been bolted on a bit too roughly and doesn't actually always work. I mean, you'll get sort of quests that say, oh, hey, could you kindly do this? And then you sort of realize, oh, wait, I can't actually. And that's a bit of a bother. I mean, you got new also bits as you move around. You got resource ports. You got the alien nests, which now represent barbarians. You also got new spots. You can basically do archaeology, which sort of serve as initial on your research bumps. As compared to Civilization, a lot more things you can find out of the map that can sort of bump you up. I mean, these I suppose sort of represent ruins, though, unless just the ruins where you just sort of moved on and got something. Here you have to actually do expeditions on them, which also means, for example, if something is covered in the miasma, you can't do anything on it because you get killed before you finish in most cases, which sort of tends to ruin the point of it. Musically, it's actually a very nice game, and I'm turned off the music and sound, all that's basically so you can actually hear me talking and all that. But I mean, nice sound-wise, musically, very great. There's some voice acting in it. In most cases, it's not very good. In fact, it's pretty off-putting. In particular, all the talk that sort of comes from do researchers wonders. They've sort of tried to, be a bit clever, some bit of humour into it and all that, trying to sort of, it's out in space. They all forgotten about, culture of the, proper Earth and all that, so it's all mixed together. To me, it doesn't really work. It sort of comes off as a bit, ha ha, we're trying to be funny, but sadly, we haven't understood what funny is. And there we go, of course. This is also how new civilizations are introduced in the game, whereas previously you just sort of encountered them. Oh, hey, it's Bismarck in the Stone Age. Now, they all sort of pop down, of course, they pop through space, you of course immediately know where they are. Again, in that sense, it does make a bit more sense. It's nicely logical. There's just one problem. If they sort of, they'll pop down, they also know of each other, and then we sort of come to one of the bigger issues of the game. The AI is pretty much the Civilization 5 AI with all the quirks of it. And they haven't really sort of done anything to take account of this. So all of a sudden you'll, for example, have... you'll have one civilization popping down, then the other civilization pops down, and almost immediately they'll be like, I really, really, really hate this person. Could we please go to war? And even more fun, you could be in the complete opposite ends of the map. And they'll still want to do it, and they'll be asking for it, and that's in part where the game gets silly. And that's in particular also not the only place where it does get silly. It gets silly quite a lot because of the AI. There's, for example, a new system where you can sort of, ask for favors. You might say a deal, and for example, you can't actually, have favors. Say gain favors. Well, in this case, they don't want anything. They can offer it. For example, you might have a strategic resource they want. They offer you a favor for it. Great. And then sometimes they'll ask you for a favor, and they say, all right, I'll grant you this favor because I, in my handsome mercy, am magnanimous, or whatever you call it that. And then they'll say, no, it's not good enough. And that's already they sort of get the problem, in part because they sort of try to trade in those favors, and you're like, wait, what's a favor actually worth? Again, it's a nice idea, owing favors, great, but what the hell is a favor worth to an AI? So I mean, there's a lot of neat ideas, but in particular when it comes to the AI, it's like dealing with a 5-year-old, a really obstinate 5-year-old. In particular, also, like, they're down to the last 2 cities. You need to get past them. You sort of even gave them one of the cities back. You need to get to the other guy who's a really nasty person you're in war with. You say, like, can I pass through here? And they're like, no, you cannot, over our dead bodies. At which point you go, well, alright, you'd barely be a speed bump, but if that's how you're going to want to do it, well, total annihilation it is then. For example, I mean, there's no sense of self-preservation with the AI. I mean, there's still the sort of, posturing, oh, you're a warmonger. Well, I don't like you, and you smell like feces. Or, again, affinity. I mean, there's no real sort of, deeper artifice to the AI. I mean, they basically just bolted it on from Civilization 5. And again, a lot of the stuff here is old. I mean, so the terrain might be different, but it's overall just Civilization 5 again. On the map, again, it's, expeditions, that's sort of one of the bigger things. Virtues is more or less the same, except slightly sort of, less than the other system. Also with included chaos worship, because, 8-pointed star. Clearly for Access has some explanation to do to the Inquisition. And of course, one might even sort of further look at this, 4, color-coded, Nesh, Sinch, Nurgle, Corn, right? I mean, this of course might just be my imagination, but, there might be reason for concern. And certainly a reason, not to bother. Of course, that's just being a bit more tongue-in-cheek. But still, I mean, there's a bit more simplicity. I mean, in some ways it works nicely. In other ways, it also causes problems. For example, buildings, I've several times throughout the games, basically had large periods of time where there was nothing to do. Except just train more troops. I mean, you might say, well, you could make more culture with it, but you're not really going to get much out of it compared to just making troops and crushing your enemy. Which sort of really makes the game a bit awkward. Then, of course, we have the aliens, sort of a nice sort of, further development on those nasty barbarians early in the game. They make it a bit more interesting, but unlike the barbarians, they sort of, well, they say about as much topical, except, unlike the barbarians, they keep on remaining and being a pain in the arse, but they don't really do much after a certain point. So they're there, but they might as well not be there. They don't develop. There's no deeper secret to them. They might serve as something for a few quests here and there, but overall, again, they might as well not be there. They don't serve a purpose after that point. I mean, again, a lot of neat ideas, but a bit shallow. There's no further development. There's no further taking it anywhere. And that in particular, I also feel is sort of what happens with the military units. Again, you have a few types of them. You have the unique ones, but they don't actually sort of do anything particular with it. Except I think maybe one has some, neat stuff you could do with orbitals, which are a nice addition. Sort of like a layer here, we can sort of lay down a satellite. They can provide bonuses or fire really big lasers, which would be neat, except if you can't really drop them near combat zones near other cities, which rather ruins the point. Because in most cases, the AI is also terrible in making armies, and in most cases I find myself pretty much blitzkrieging through the opponent. But again, that's back to the AI being a 5-year-old, and also having a really impressionable idea of how military forces works without, really understanding it. And god damn it, Elodie, stealing my ruins. Horrid old woman. But no. I mean, again, in terms of unit types, I mean, there's less than there were in Civilization 5. There's no sort of special marine units. You've got 2 ships, carrier, and sort of a battleship. There's no submarines. There's no paratroops. There's not even, say, something interesting here, to do something when you say, oh, it's space. Oh, maybe orbital drop troops or anything like that. Nope, nothing. I mean, it doesn't really take the sci-fi theme in terms of military and run with it. It just, takes a bit of the more generic stuff, but doesn't even try to give it a bit of flavour. It's too conservative, or as I more suspect, I mean, it's basically sort of an expansion where they sort of tried to make it play like a full game, but clearly, I mean, there's these large gaping holes where, they basically had to sort of, cheat and stretch over, take from here. It's basically like a Como in terms of a game, It doesn't really look nice in the longer run. So again, while it is fun, it's not very chewy. There's not enough to chew on in terms of a meal. It looks very nice, but once you're done with it, there's not really much to chew on, and you're not really satisfied. Besides, the initial taste. I mean, it tastes great, but again, there's just not a lot to chew on in the long run. if you sort of get the analogy. And that's also in part, you know, where this sort of game runs afoul. And there's a lot of these things. I mean, there's also sort of things where you just have to go, why did they have to do that in the first place? I mean, one critique in particular is basically you have trade routes like in the previous Civilization games. The problem is you have to manage them constantly for some reason, and it makes no sense whatsoever. They actually have you sort of constantly confirming the trade routes. I mean, it makes no sense. I mean, it's not like you couldn't say, you know, oh, I want to route it, I can do that. No, you have to like confirm it, and that when you, for example, have 20 cities because you went on a blitzkrieg through half the continent, and then you have to find, you know, the city previously used. I mean, doesn't make sense. Also with the outposts, which are in addition, sort of like the city-states, again, you have to go through it all. I mean, it makes no sense, and some of the victory conditions serve under the exact same level of tedium. I won't tell which one, but there's some where you basically just sort of went, why on earth do I have to do this? This is extremely boring. I mean, it rather feels like they're pushing you towards a domination victory half the time. But at the same time, they're not really going to make it fun either, because again, you don't really have a lot of things that's interesting to do with the military units. So it's just basically a good old-fashioned goose-stepping over the enemy, and then you sort of like, well, that was it. What now? So I mean, again, it feels very much like they didn't quite have the resources to do what they wanted to do. They tried their best, which is grand, but it's clearly been marketed as more and as they actually could afford to make themselves, which makes it a bit odd, a bit weird, and again, overall in the longer term, maybe not too satisfying. So while I can certainly say I'm having fun with the game, I'm playing it, but at the same time, as I play it more through each time, I could sort of focus my attention less and less on it, because ultimately in terms of choices there's not really a lot when you sort of think about it in the long term. In part because again there's nothing really interesting to do. I mean, the AI is basically the same, again, 5-year-old mentality. The military side is undercooked, and a lot of the other aspects really haven't been fully developed either. Again, the aliens really haven't any sort of really great interesting hook to them. They don't develop themselves, they don't further react. They can become hostile, but again at the point where you're basically like, well, die. So I mean, there are issues, but again, it's fun. And it's a bit hard to sort of explain that fun. It's the fun of Civilization 5. It's the fun here in this case of exploring a new alien world, colonizing it, setting up large industrial cities and so on, wading through with battle suits, hover tanks, lasers, all that. I mean, it has some fun again, but the problem is, once you've been there, it sort of lacks it, because again, there's nothing beneath it. And I think that's the problem. It very much sort of relies on the initial, ooh, it's an alien world, but once you get that, ooh, it's Civilization 5 with an alien world, but largely it's Civilization 5, and the new things added to it ultimately don't add enough in the long run, so we make it worth it. So I mean, unless you really want to play the next Civilization Beyond Earth, I mean, I don't think you should rush for it. Just wait for it to drop in price, then have a go at it. I mean, again, it's fun, you won't be disappointed. But I fear, I mean, as it is, again, you won't have much in the long run. They need to add more content, because also, in particular, the amount of sponsors mean if you actually play on some of the larger maps, you'll keep encountering the exact same, which means you might actually encounter clones, which further gets awkward. So again, problems, and again, it all just feels like, again, an expansion size sort of content, but they tried to make a full game out of it, and again, it's has resulted in a lot of, you know, quick patch over solutions and comb over solutions, which ultimately have some issues. I mean, again, it looks pretty, it's really nice music, but again, there's sort of parts again we just feel like, you know, couldn't you just have added more money and content into it and sort of went through with it fully? And that overall, I suppose, is sort of the game. Again, you know, it's an expansion-sized game, but not quite enough content to really, you know, put it beyond what they're trying to make it, which is a sort of full game in itself. I mean, it's not like Civilization, well, 4 Colonization, which sort of sold itself, well, based on sort of smaller sops, and had it been marketed like that, I think could have worked. But again, it was sort of, you know, it's the next big thing, Civilization in space, beyond Earth. And you're like, it's Civilization 5 with a space skin. Again, it's fun, but it's lacking enough to sort of really solidly justify it. So I think that sort of really covers in my first sort of, you know, propaganda review of another game, and hopefully people will sort of gain an understanding, appreciate, of course, feedback, criticism, all that I appreciate. I'm certainly sort of having to try this out. This is definitely different from commenting on a game, but hopefully I got over the main points. Civilisation 5, in a sense, with a new skin, some new additions, but overall nothing to sort of really say this is truly a different game. So I think that really covers it. Thank you all. Hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you gained some ideas, and hopefully you might have decided with this on a purchase or not, or at least to wait with a purchase for another time, because again, ultimately, it is a fun game, but it might be harder to justify the current price of it, to be honest. And I certainly would not say to anyone they, you know, should go rush out and buy it, because it's not that great and it's not that marvelous. But it's fun. I mean, you won't be disappointed if you do, but you won't have a great satisfaction in the long run, is probably what I would say. So, thank you all, and see you another time. Bye!